co-chairs Rami Segal, and really excited to share that Vanessa Aronson, who I've known for many years actually through the education world. We first met when I worked at Teach for America, and Vanessa was a core member, a teacher here in New York, has uh, joined on with Rami and myself to co-chair the committee with us. We're especially excited to have the perspective of a parent on the committee in leadership. I think it's been like extraordinarily helpful to have Rami's perspective as a current high school student. But I will turn it over to Vanessa really quickly to introduce herself. Really excited to have you on board and excited to have your perspective. And hopefully, Baby Love will show a little appearance tonight.
Hi, thank you so much, China. I'm so excited to join in this role on this committee. I know a lot of people, a lot of our regular attendees, because I have been a regular attendee on this committee for a while. So I'm just really excited to join Rami and Taina in chairing this awesome committee. And thank you for having me.
Thanks, Vanessa. I think, Rami, unless you want to share something, I was going to jump right in since we have so many members of the public here.
Yes, let's let the district managers do their thing before we start.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. A few notes for you, particularly if this is your first meeting with us. You'll notice that you are muted and unable to mute yourself. After any presentations, the co-chairs may call on members of the public who wish to speak. You can ask to be recognized by raising your virtual hand. You can do that by going to the reactions button at the bottom of your screen and selecting raise hand. It's important not to raise your physical hands or to wave at the screen because we may not be able to see you among the participants. If you are on a phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute. Once you're recognized by the co-chair, I will unmute you and you may be prompted to confirm unmuting on your device. If you're using an older version of Zoom, you can access the raise hand feature by clicking the participants button on the menu at the bottom of your screen and selecting raise hand. The chat function is available for technical support only, not to ask questions of the co-chairs. You can send me a chat if you're having any technical issues and I'll help troubleshoot those problems with you. Okay, back to you guys.
And one last thing, welcome, Vanessa. Pleased to have you as a co-chair.
Thank you, Saida. Thanks, Rami. So I wanted to start the meeting by giving a little bit of context for those of you for whom this is your first meeting. We at Community Board 8 have a number of different committees that are topical. This committee, I think Rami is right. This is definitely record attendance, at least since I've been on the board, which is about 2 years. So we're excited to have you all here. And while we know that what brought you here tonight is a very specific issue, we hope that you continue to consider this committee a resource for you, for all the young people that have joined, right? Like, it's important to us that we are a voice of young people in the community and of issues that are of importance to students and young people and young families in the committee and others that care about education. Last month we had a committee meeting, and during the sort of after the agenda portion of the meeting, we had a member of the public who was actually a public member of a committee of Community Board 8, Colonel David Menegon, bring to our attention the issue of the challenges that the Knickerbocker Grays are having with continuing to retain their space at the Park Avenue Armory. As we do with any issue that is brought to our attention that involves children, youth in our community, we put it on the agenda for this meeting. And so we are pleased to have all of you here. In quick order after that, I invited representatives from both the Park Avenue Armory, 7th Regiment Armory, I know it's called both, and the Knickerbocker Grays to present. And so I am going to turn it over first, and just to give you a lay of the land in terms of the format of the meeting, we have allotted 15 minutes for the Knickerbocker Grays, a representative who I will turn it over to shortly, to present sort of their presentation and their slides and their perspective on what is happening. And then without a break for questions, we will then turn it over to 15 minutes for Rebecca Robertson from the Armory to present. We will then open it up to, in order of this priority, members of the public who are present. We will be prioritizing calling on children that are on the Zoom. Obviously, we are grateful to have you here. We value your perspective, and we think it is the most important perspective to have. And we also want you to get to bed and to your homework and to dinner. And so we will promise to call on you first. We will then, if there are any elected officials that join the Zoom or representatives of their staff, local elected officials, we will call on them. And then we will open it up to questions from committee co-chairs, committee members, and members of the community board. And so both organizations and representatives from the organizations have sent us slides that they will be running through. So if you could unmute Will, Adrian Rogotnik to present from the Knickerbocker Grays, that would be great.
Saida, do you see Adrian? And Adrian, if you're here, just raise your hand.
So I see a Rogotnik family Grays. There are 2 people in the Zoom, so I think she just raised her hand. Yeah. And Adrian, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. Please correct me.
And I'll just remind everybody, go to the participant section, name yourself your correct name so we can call on you by your name. It's very helpful so that we're not just guessing.
Right, it's tricky because I'm, part of the family thing here. So this is my husband, Howard. I'm Adrian Rogotnik. I'm the current president of the board of directors at the Knickerbocker Grays. And I've been in the organization probably about 10 years. My son first joined and he was in it for 10 years and I just continued on the board. I just want to start a little bit about who we are, and it's the board that and the parents that really drive the Grays, but really the day-to-day weekly drills are run by our 2 greatest leaders, Colonel David Menegon and Colonel Tom Pike, who you'll be hearing from later. They'll talk about their experience and how they run the drills and what we do on a daily basis and a weekly basis with events, color guards, Veterans Day parades. Now, Will, I sent you the slides earlier. If you just want to start with the first one, since this is my first community board meeting, I furnished you with the slides. Are you supposed to put them up or am I? That's the only question.
You can if you want to. That way we save the time of you asking us to advance to the next slide. But
if you could, actually, my technical abilities, I'm not able to pull up or access my computer stuff while I'm doing the Zoom call.
Okay.
So if you could, that'd be great. Well, I just want to
actually, I don't have access to the files you sent me.
Okay.
So you'll have to make them where they can be shared.
Got it. So that is going to be tricky. Not sure if this is I'm just gonna have to go ahead. So I don't know how to minimize this. I'm not sure how to minimize the screen, so I guess we're gonna have to wing it.
Is there someone who may have them in the meeting that could put them up other than me? Because I'm getting
I think I did CC the board and the colonels on the pictures.
Yeah, we don't have access to the files.
Yeah, this is what I'm getting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to be able to minimize out of the Zoom call, so I guess we're going to have to.
Could we take another few minutes?
Could I take a minute and
without it coming into the
step
time?
out? That'd be great.
Please do, please do.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the community board and Rami and Tahina and Vanessa for your patience.
Will, did you get a separate file than what I got earlier?
What did you get? Because I got an email that had a bunch of Google Docs.
Yeah, I don't have that, but
I'll forward you what I have. But I don't think you're going to be able to access it
right.
either.
I was just, okay. Thank you for everyone's patience. Let's just give Adrian a minute to try to figure this out. Can you unmute Adrian, Will, please?
Great. I just wanted, could you show me the screen that you're seeing again? I'm just trying to figure out what account it's having a problem with. I think I sent it from the Grays account, correct?
David, I see you shaking your head. Do you have access to the file, and can we allow you to share your screen? Can you unmute David, please? Yes, I see Lori shaking her head. Let's just let somebody else that has access to the file share the screen.
David, do you have it?
I have a few slides. They might not be all of Adrian's, but you know, you go to war what you got, so we can move
Right,
forward.
but I saw Lori Sutton shaking her head. Do you have the files that she was?
I have.
Hang on, Lori. I'll find you.
I can share my screen. I think I can handle this. Okay.
All right.
How's that?
Does that look good to you, Adrian?
They're not, they're actually, it's a different slideshow. So that's what I'm trying to, I'm not sure how to share on Google the Knickerbocker Grays. Is there a,
Adrian, we're going to have to move forward.
I understand.
Yeah, could you just share your screen? All you have to, do you know how to do that?
Do you use the
hold on.
share screen function in Zoom? You don't have to actually minimize your screen.
Exactly.
Let me pull it up. Hold on.
Okay. Perhaps you could just show your pictures and move forward.
Correct.
Show your screen. Okay.
1 second.
I will now mute myself.
Hit the share screen button at the bottom of your screen. It's a green button. You'll
Let me
select
pull up
the
the
item
photos
that you.
first.
Yeah.
Let me go to the email I sent you. Let me pull it up.
I'll just take this moment to remind everybody that the chat is for technical support only. If you're having software problems with Zoom, it is not to express opinions or share concerns or comments. The co-chairs and the presenters will never see those comments.
So where was the share screen button?
If you're in Zoom, it's the
Fabulous.
green button at the bottom of your screen, and you'll want to select the window that you
Got it.
want to share.
It's going to be a little bumpy, but bear with me.
No, looks great.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks so much for bearing with us.
Yeah. Of course, this is one slide at a time, so it's going to have to, I got to make sure that we can go to the next slide. That's the problem. I gotta go back. Give me 1 second. Don't see the arrow for next. All right, I'll just go back and forth then.
That's fine. That's fine. Let's get started.
So I just want to, you know, for those of you who don't know about the Knickerbocker Grays, we were founded in 1881 by a mom who wanted to, back in the day when there were no after school activities, Mrs. Acosta Curtis founded the Grays, and in order to keep the kids occupied. And I don't think a lot has changed, although there are now a variety of organizations that offer these kind of activities. She was sort of the first. So how we got to here, I'll just give you a little bit about what we do. This is a picture of the Knickerbocker Grays during the Veterans Day Parade that we watched, and I'll move to the next slide so we can see the cadets. So it's really all about the kids and an opportunity for them to get together and meet a variety of people from all over the city, different schools, different neighborhoods, and these are friends that they've made over the years because most cadets stay in for quite a while. And they come and go, and it's always been a home away from home for some kids. And we participate in color guards and get to meet various politicians. This is at the Ukrainian vigil that was held last week. That's Congresswoman Maloney and David Menegon, the back over her left shoulder. And that's our Cadet Colonel Ian Bell. And let me just go to the next one. So then part of the color guards, they go to the events, they present the colors, but they also have an opportunity to mingle. And Colonel Menegon and Colonel Pike will talk about the certain things that they try to teach in everyday life that makes them better citizens, more comfortable with talking to grownups in any situation. I see it more as making the cadets available to interact in any environment, whether it's a nursing home with veterans or at a fancy club like this one where they're honoring a particular speaker. So there's a whole bunch of different events that they do, or if it's making Valentine's Day cards for the women's shelter upstairs, there are 80, we share the building with 80 homeless women that the shelter is based on now the 4th floor, and we have different activities that we do throughout the year. We try and engage and teach the kids in different skills. So one of the things about the Grays is we've been around for a while and a lot of things haven't changed. You can see here on the left, there's a picture of a young cadet and he's learning about drumming, but also it goes on today. So part of the thing is not a lot has changed. We've been around for 141 years. We've been based at the Park Avenue Armory for 120 years. Mrs. Curtis and the Grays were at a previous armory. It burned down the next day. She's writing a letter to Colonel Appleton saying, we got burned out of the armory. Can you provide a home for us? And he immediately wrote back and said, absolutely, come up here and drill. You're welcome. And then there's letters in the records because we have a lot of archives which are based in our home right now. I'll just move on to the next one. But he wrote and he said, I'm so glad to see the Grays. I've heard such great reports and I've seen you drilling around. So again, we've been there for a long time. This isn't sort of a temporary situation for us. It's our home. And you'll hear from some of the cadets, young and old, who will talk about their experience in the armory itself, because it's a special place for us. The reason why we came here is because COVID, as you know, the city shut down, the armory shut down right after our last main event in February of 2020. We had a wonderful winter review where many veterans as old as 89 came back to see the young cadets of today march around and, visit the armory. It was held in the Tiffany Room, which has been beautifully restored. It was a fabulous experience. And then the COVID came and we were not allowed to get back into the armory. Obviously, the city shut down. But then starting in September, as vaccines became available, the board and the leadership, colonels and the parents were allowed to get back into the armory to access the uniforms, our medals, papers, the archives. But the children were not allowed to return. And so, as everybody knows, it's been very hard for the kids during COVID. There are not a lot of in-person activities, and it's all based on Zoom. And that's one of the things that we tried to get back into action as soon as possible, because we all have children and know of children that have been adversely affected by the lockdown. So when the vaccines became available for the children, and I saw that the Conservancy was opening up its performances to children, I reached out to the Conservancy to find out, could we resume our classes? It was necessary and it was important. It was vital for us to get the kids back in person. I was told that they're not at full capacity, despite the fact that they were having performances that children were allowed to attend. And some of our family members did attend those where children were present in December. Then I followed up with other emails and we didn't hear back until we got a phone call saying we need you to move your stuff. We're renovating the space. And of course, I thinking that they just meant move your stuff to a different floor while we renovate, because it has been a 16-year process of renovation there, tackling different parts. But
I
anyway,
apologize, and I'm sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt, but can we stop sharing the screen because
Sure.
you're not showing unless
Yep.
you're going to move on to slides
Yep.
or
No,
showing.
sorry, Taina, I'm spacing
No,
out.
don't apologize. It's just I wasn't sure if you were aware that you weren't showing a photo. Okay,
Yeah. I'm just
Proceed.
focusing on concentrating.
proceed.
So here you have a picture of the cadets. This is the main entrance to the Armory. Of course, in the last 5 or so years, the cadets have not been permitted to use the front entrance to come in. They've been required to come in the side entrance that's used for the shelter entrance. Not really quite sure why, but if you go through the Armory, you open these doors that weigh about 50 pounds, you'll see the first things on the left and the right walls, plaques dedicated to the Greys that have served and sacrificed in both World War I and World War II. They're in the dark and they're not highlighted, but our blood's in the building. So before I get choked up, sorry, I'll return to the COVID thing. So we wanted to get back in and the kids were there. I was getting no, we got the phone call from the Conservancy saying that we were to leave the building, not just move during renovation, we were to leave the building. So that's when we requested, Dave Menegon reached out and said, this is time for a public hearing. So I thank you guys for listening to us and hearing our situation. Our belief is that the Conservancy is not the landlord. The people of the state of New York are the landlord. There are 3 tenants in that building. The Conservancy is one. The National Guard is the other. The women's shelter is the third. So my belief, and I'll pull up the, sorry. So let me see if I can pull this up. It's very simple. The Conservancy is not the landlord. So what I'm trying to do here, sorry, is just pull up. There we go. Cover page. There we go. So I don't know how to make that bigger. Oh, sorry. Gosh, this is insane. One second. It's not in dispute. Anyway, I'll pull up the.
Adrian, I think in the interest of time and
There we go. Sorry.
Okay.
There it is.
We are not seeing whatever you think you're showing.
I think you need to just stop sharing and then reshare again to the new window that you opened.
That's not it. Wait, all right.
You can
You're
only-
sharing that cover
Never mind,
page, and I have that
doesn't
open.
matter. It doesn't matter. So the cover of their lease says very plainly, sorry, I'm trying to unshare this now.
Yep, just hit stop share screen at the bottom. Great.
Okay. That one front page of their lease with the state, which is 175 pages long, if you feel like reading it, the cover says very clearly, People State of New York, landlord, tenant is the 7th Regiment Armory Conservancy. It's very clear. The Greys should not be evicted. Period. We've been there for 120 years. The state is the landlord and the Conservancy doesn't have the right to evict us. We're a wonderful organization that's been around since 1881. We've been in the Armory since 1902. The Greys should be protected and preserved, and that's what we really want. We just want to be let back in, let our kids drill like we have been for 120 years on the 2nd and 3rd floor for 1 day a week from 4:30 to 6. It's after hours, so usually there's not anybody there. I recommend that all of you go over to the Armory and see the space. and go down to the headquarters. We're at the bottom of the stairs. If you go toward the drill hall, you take a left, you go down the stairs. We're under the stairs like Harry Potter in a small 800 square feet space. The drill hall and the 5 floors of the Armory take up 194,000 square feet. There's space for us. And I'd be happy to give you a tour to see. So,
Thanks, Adrian. We've actually hit your 15 minutes.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Adrian, for sharing. If we could unmute Rebecca Robertson, who I believe is with us. Rebecca has slides that she
muted. What do I do now?
Hi, Rebecca. How are you?
Oh,
Oh, you're unmuted again. Can we unmute Rebecca?
You have to confirm unmuting on your end, Rebecca. You should see something.
Rebecca,
popping up.
you should have a Rebecca, your video's on and you should have a message that says, there you go. Can you speak so we can see if we can hear you?
yes.
Hi, Rebecca. So Rebecca
Hi.
is here to speak on behalf of the Armory, founding president and executive director. So I believe you have slides that you are going to share yourself.
Indeed we do, and I'm going to share them in a sec. I'm going to talk first a little bit, if that's
Great.
okay.
Please.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting us. I really appreciate it. And it's lovely to know, we've been at your Youth and Education Committee before, but it was a while ago.
Mhm.
So let me start by giving you a little background on who we are and what Park Avenue Armory, which is what we call ourselves now. Our legal name is 7th Regiment Armory Conservative, but we're DBA Park Avenue Armory. Was founded 20 plus years ago in the mid 1990s. Some of you may remember this, some of you won't, by a group of private citizens, of which I was one, who were determined to save this really important national landmark that was falling apart in front of everybody's eyes. In 1998, New York Times did a 2-part expose on the Armory and commented as follows on its deplorable physical condition. The 7th Regiment Armory is a long neglected giant in disrepair with crumbling ceilings, leaky walls. Parts of the first floor ceilings have collapsed over the past 2 years, and more ceiling damage has occurred last week. After years of lobbying on our part, in 2004, the state of New York issued a request for proposal for somebody to take over the building, to repurpose it, and to take care of it. Our proposal won, and we were granted a 99-year lease with the obligation to restore, renovate, and maintain the Armory, and to revitalize it as, and now I quote, a not-for-profit cultural center for performing and visual arts. The idea is that it would contribute to the New York's cultural base and provide thousands of new jobs to the art sector. It was also a prime goal of our organization, of the state, to open up this public treasure to the public, not just to the privileged few who had benefited exclusively from it for many years. And that's, of course, what we've done. Since then, the Armory's grown into a multidisciplinary art center that attracts 200 to 300,000 audience members a year. We have an annual budget of 27 million. Our organization, according to the New York Times, has arrived as the most important New York cultural institution in the city. We have a 55,000 square foot drill hall, which the New York Times says is the site of choice for immersive theatrical, operatic, and musical presentation. Time magazine recently declared that the Armory is New York's undisputed main stage for cutting edge, visually inventive theater. And the New Yorker puts it much more simply. They say the Armory's programming has become essential to New York life, which is very important for the economy and for the culture of New York City. So we have 3 main missions. The first is unconventional multidisciplinary artistic programming by diverse world-class artists. The second is creativity-based education for students from under-resourced public schools. And the third is rehabilitation, restoration, and ongoing maintenance of the landmark building. At the center of our programming, of course, is this just amazing space that you see right here, the Wade Thompson Drill Hall, into which we invite diverse artists to create outside-the-box productions and exhibitions that cannot be realized in conventional theaters, concert halls, or white wall galleries. Among our drill hall productions have been our first commission that you see here by Brazilian artist Ernesto Neto, which was a gauzy spice-infused labyrinth. And here we show it with the dancers from the Shenway Dance Company. We also, that was followed by the Royal Shakespeare Company and an amazing 6-week residence, which was a hot ticket. We've also had the farewell performance of the Merce Cunningham Dance Company, which was very touching because Merce asked before he died that it be here. We were able to do that. The audience moved around the space freely. Anne Hamilton's luminous and interactive event of The Thread, maybe some of you came, was incredibly popular. We had 72,000 people that came all together, and it went absolutely viral from a social media point of view. We had a hurtling Macbeth directed and starring Kenneth Branagh, in which the drill hall was turned into a muddy, bloodied Scottish heath. The St. Matthew Passion with the Berlin Philharmonic and Eric Owens in the starring role, just an extraordinary event. Flexen, a poignant work by dance activist Reg Rock and the Dream Ring about juvenile incarceration and other pressing social issues. Bobby Cannavale in a very acclaimed Harry Ape, in which the audience was placed in the center of a revolving stage. Herzog and de Meuron with Ai Weiwei, exploring surveillance and limits of privacy in Hansel and Gretel. Nick Cave's Let Go, an amazing thing with his sinuous curtain of Mylar streamers and his extraordinary sound suits. We invited 140 groups to come and just let go in this area. It was really incredibly beautiful. Next, the William Kentridge's The Head on the Load, about the heinous treatment of African soldiers in World War I. Sam Mendes' extraordinary Lehman trilogy, which had some of the most incredible acting I think I've ever seen in New York. The Satoshi Miyagi's Antigone, which was beautiful, performed in water, a really fabulous piece. Theaster Gates' Black Artist Retreat, first time it had ever been done outside Chicago, which gathered 400 Black artists from all over the US for talks, discussions, performances, and which we built for a theater. We built in a roller skating rink, which ended up the 4-day conference. During COVID, as Adrienne has mentioned, we were shut down for a long time, but we were able to create a social distance hall. And we did a number of works in that for very, very small audiences, about 100 people. The first was Afterwardsness by Bill T. Jones, about the twin effects of the pandemic and George Floyd's murder. Jason Moran and Laurie Anderson collaborated in a beautiful requiem for those who perished during COVID. And we'd had Enemy of the People with the Formidable and a number of these were New York Times critics' picks. Our programming in September 21, we started to get back to fuller audiences and opened with Bill T. Jones doing a piece he'd been working on for 5 years, Deep Blue Sea, that was beautiful, with sets by Liz Diller. It was about oneness and community. And this, just so you know, there's a mirror back here. That's why the drill hall looks bigger than ever. Carrie Mae Weems' brilliant exhibition called The Shape of Things, which considered the political effects of the browning of America through photography, film, and also convening of 200 plus artists that included Spike Lee, Deborah Willis, Elizabeth Lumbo, and a number of notable artists and cultural thinkers. And then we just completed Assembly, a piece by Rashad Newsom, an amazing video artist who explored the phenomenon of queer femme voguing and how art can address the pain of otherness. It was very, very moving. So besides the drill hall productions, which take up a lot of time, as you can imagine, we also have a recital series in the Board of Officers room where you can see some of the most important singers in the world with another sort of 70 audience members. We have an artist studio series that is run in the Veterans Room, which is curated by the great jazz pianist, Jason Moran. And we also have a public talks program, which is very popular, which is curated by Tava Nyong'o, who is the chair of performance and theater program at Yale. In addition, the Armory has an artist in residence program whose participants, among our participants, here's our current participants at the moment, are Lynn Nottage, Stephen Hoggett, Christine Jones, Mimi Leanne, Carmelita Tropicana. We also have a commissioning program with the artists that you see here. 11 artists. During COVID, we were able to have 11 artists under commission, which was very important because they really had to be supported during the time that they couldn't actually sort of work together. So that's really what our arts program is all about, the artistic programming. But our second cornerstone is our arts education program, which I know the Grays would, of course, appreciate. We have a substantial program that serves more than 5,000 students a year from under-resourced public schools, where 90% of the students identify as BIPOC, self-identify as BIPOC, and our 79% come from households below the poverty line. The programs include, on an annual basis, production-based programming, where we have kids come to the drill hall productions and to our recitals in the art studio and public talks. There are workshops before and after. You just saw them at Macbeth. This is them at the Nick Cave student workshops. And then we also have a partner schools. This is the assembly. We have a partner school program. We try to add a school every year. We were not able to do that during COVID, but we will keep going with that. And we have a training program for post-high school. And sorry, this is the Youth Corps program. So we have paid internships, 14,000 hours a year of paid internships. These are the kids doing front of house work. They also have a capstone project. And they also work with our artists. So here they are with Marina Bronvik next. They also organize student summits on issues that are important to teens at this time. And we also have a program for post-high school, which is a relatively new program for us. But this is Daryl Thomolian, who is now the office manager at the Armory. We have a number of students who've come through, graduated from college, and through our training programs have entered into the arts with full-time jobs, which we're very excited about. I will say that during COVID, I think we're a real lifeline to our partner schools and to the Youth Corps. And I have just two comments here, just to say that here's a teacher from the Williamsburg High School of Art and Design, that we brought out so many voices that otherwise would have been silent. And that I know that the support that the Armory played made a difference in getting through this year. And then from a student who said that even though I was depressed, I was talking to people and making art. The meetings made me feel less alone. I treasure the Armory. The third cornerstone of our mission, as I noted earlier, is rehabilitation, restoration, upgrading, and ongoing maintenance of this important building. We've raised and invested $165 million so far to make it safe, code compliant, up to date. The capital projects we have completed are endless: upgrade of all the electric, upgrade of all the heating, putting air conditioning everywhere, reinforcing all the truss work, plaster stabilization, repointing of every facade. And as you know, the facades are quite a few of them. Extensive excuse me, roof work, 2 circulation cores to make it code compliant, which include emergency fire stairs as well as elevators. And the restoration of the Park Avenue entrance, which you mentioned, the 50-pound doors. I think sometimes they feel like 200 pounds, those doors. And then the restoration of a number of historic rooms, something that we're particularly proud of. And this is the Board of Officers room, where we now have our recital series. And the Veterans room is the other one, which is one of the great rooms. Roberta Smith of the New York Times said that the restoration of Park Avenue Armory seems destined to set a new standard, not just for its scale, but for its level of respect and imagination. This was a beautiful room to work on. So I'm going to stop sharing now. We are launching now the 11th phase of our $200 million sort of capital construction plan, which includes a major upgrade in mechanical, electrical, and plumbing on the 66th Street level. And the creation of a welcoming and fully equipped accessible entrance and lobby to serve those in wheelchairs and those who are otherwise unable to navigate the steep and high Park Avenue staircases. Which brings us to the situation with the Knickerbocker Grays. So in 2006, in advance of turning over responsibility for the Armory to our organization, the state of New York wrote a letter to the Grays that stated as follows: inasmuch as your organization has no leasehold, occupancy, or other agreement of any kind with the Armory, you're hereby given notice to vacate and remove all property. We had just arrived. They came and talked to us about this, and we said that since we were not we were just starting. And so obviously we weren't using all of the areas in the building. We would have them remain and permit them to remain. So we were very clear that at some time we would need the space back. And I think that you can see 16 years later, given our current artistic program of 364 days, we're programmed 364 days a year. We have these 3 presentation spaces. We have a huge expanding arts education program. We have a waiting list of under-resourced schools who want to participate. We have the recitals and the public talks and the artists in residence and the commissioning. We have a constant staff expansion just to deal with all these programs. And we are really just bursting out of the seams, so much that we ourselves have had to rent additional space for storage, for rehearsal and other activities. This bursting of the seams is really a big issue with us, and we really need the space back. So the time's come now for the Grays to find a permanent home where, as they say is in they've committed to in their communications with Congressman Maloney, that they can truly serve large numbers of children from public schools as well as private ones, children from BIPOC communities, children with disability, children from economically disadvantaged families. We very much sympathize and really applaud you for taking on these kind of responsibilities, which you think is great. The good news is that on our own initiative, we wanted to help out. And so I asked our board member, who I know David Minigon knows, I'm sure many of you, rest of you do, Brigadier General Edward Klein of the National Guard, to assist in finding a suitable new location for the weekly after-school drilling, for the classes for 12 to 20 young people, but if possible for with room for growth. And I'm happy to report that General Klein found rent-free space at the Fifth Avenue Armory, which is a wonderful facility with many large rooms, well served by mass transit. And unlike Park Avenue Armory, an active use by prestigious regiment, the 369th, also known, of course, you guys know all this, the Helm.
Rebecca, I hate to interrupt, but you've hit your 15 minutes, so wrap up, please.
Okay, sure will. General Klein is confident that the presence of the State National Guard at the Fifth Avenue Armory will inspire the Grays and add important and meaningful dimensions to their program, including to their desires to foster diversity and accessibility among their membership. So I hope that the Grays are able to see that there may be some value in the fact that at this point they have to move because we just don't have the space anymore.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Thank you. So for those of you that are raising your virtual hands, I appreciate how eager you are to speak. But as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, these were the 2 presentations. We are prioritizing opening it up to members of the public, children, and elected officials. And so I am pleased to turn it over to Julie Menon, our local city council member, District 5. If you can unmute Julie, who has been patiently waiting. Thank you so much, Julie, for waiting.
Thank you so much. It's great to see everyone. And I just have to say, to have 183 people on this meeting, I think is phenomenal. It really speaks to civic engagement, but it also, quite frankly, speaks to the importance of this issue. I really want to thank the committee for their phenomenal work in debating this issue and having these presentations and hopefully coming to a resolution. So I wanted to come on because I have heard from many residents of the district who have children who participate in the Grays, and I want them to have a home. I have to say, after hearing the presentation, and Rebecca, I certainly appreciate the great cultural performances that exist in the Armory, and I don't think anyone is disputing that. It just seems to me, with 194,000 square feet of space, what the Grays are asking for, as I understand it, is literally 2 hours a week to be able to utilize space. That's a de minimis ask. And so I support the Grays in their ask. And I hope that the committee and the community board writ large and all of you will be able to get a resolution. I have communicated my concerns directly to the governor's office and written a letter on that. And I remain, available to help resolve this. But to me, the Grays are incredibly important members of the community. We're talking about our kids. We're talking about helping our kids. I think it's a phenomenal use. And I don't think these 2 things are mutually exclusive. So I just wanted to come on and say that. And most importantly, I really want to thank CB8 for their great leadership in helping on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Menon. Thank you for joining. I do not, unless you see any Will or Rami or Vanessa, my co-chairs, any other elected officials. So, look, we have a lot of people on the Zoom, the most that we've ever had as co-chairs of this committee, right, Rami?
I think in the history of the committee.
By a long shot. I
Yeah.
don't know. So, like as I mentioned in the beginning, we're gonna start the opportunity for members of the public to speak. Given the vast, and I hope you appreciate this and don't hold this against us, the number of people that are on, we are going to limit folks to 1 minute. And we're also going to be very mindful that, you know, once we're done hearing from kids, which is who we're prioritizing, if everyone if it's clear that everyone's sort of on the same side or saying the same things, we're also going to call for a raising of hands in terms of like whether folks are here in support or against, you know, we'll wait till we sort of like hear from folks. So, well, if we could unmute in order of, and this is like a little tough, but like I see Max Phillips has his hands raised and he is definitely not an adult. So if we could unmute Max Phillips to speak for 1 minute.
Hello, my name is Max Phillips, and I would like to say a few words about the Grays. And thank you for everybody who has spoken, including Rebecca Robertson. Good evening. My name is Max Phillips, and I am a Knickerbocker Gray. I am a pretty new member of the Corps and honestly love our program. For the first time in my life, I actually look forward to Tuesdays, which is our drill day. What I enjoy about drill days is that we learn how to march in parades, which is not as easy as it looks. We are taught how to properly and respectfully present the American flag at important events and compete for ranks with other cadets, which I hope one day will give me the chance to be a company leader. My parents tell me how proud they are for my involvement with the Grays, which I think is because my grades have improved in school and I can socialize with adults in a way others may not be. Thank you.
It's okay, Max. Did you have a little more to say? You've been waiting really patiently.
Yeah, but if you guys would like to continue, it's okay.
No, it's okay. You can have 15 more seconds. Go ahead.
Based on all I want to say to everyone is who is interested in helping us keep our home is that I love being a Knickerbocker Gray cadet and I love to see us continue on for another 140 years.
Thank you so much for joining us, Max. Maybe go do some homework so you can keep up those good grades. Thanks so much, Max. We have a few, or at least one staffer of an elected official, but I'd really like to prioritize, especially given the time, kids that are on. And so I'm strolling through in the order that I see, I believe George and Margaret. I feel like that's the next kid that's on. If we could please unmute them, please. I don't know who is speaking, if that's Margaret.
If you are over the age of 18, can I please ask you
To
lower
put your hand
hand?
down, yeah.
It makes it so much easier.
Thank you. Thanks, Rami. Great. This is much better. Did we already have George and Margaret? I probably called that out of order, but if we've already unmuted them.
Yeah, they were unmuted.
Great. Hi.
Hi.
Okay, you're up.
Hi, my name is Margaret Malice, and I've been in the Grays for 2 years. But before I joined, I learned all about the Grays, and it inspired me to join. I want to stay in the Armory because we have history where I've been included. I've been coming to the Armory since I was 3 years old, and now I'm 9. I was a family member of a Gray. All the Grays measure their height every year. We always have measured our height, and mine is there. I've met so many different people through the Grays, and I've never met them before because they all want to be part of the history of the Armory. make every effort for us to be included in the Armory. It is our part of history.
Thank you so much, Margaret. If we could unmute Thomas Scheinfeld from the Grays, please. And again, if you are not under the age of 18, please lower your hand. It will make it much easier for us. Thank you. Hi, Thomas.
Hello. Hello, I'm Thomas Scheinfeld. I've been a member of the Knickerbocker Braves up until the pandemic. I believe it's a vital part to keeping the Armory. I think that the activities there show kids not only manners, but also discipline and how to be a better man or woman. I believe that the activities there are special, but none are as special as the Knickerbocker Grays. I started coming when I was just 7 years old. Ever since then, I've learned so many things. And I believe that removing it would be the wrong decision. We're an important part of history, and removing us because we have a special privilege is inaccurate, as we have been here for over 150 years, and many people, and many artists outside of New York have been coming for a very long time. I believe
Let's just finish. You're doing great. Please continue.
I believe that removing them, but not only taking their rights away, is the wrong decision, as we are just as important as any other activity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Thomas, for coming. If we can unmute Ian Bell, please.
Hi, can you hear me? Oh.
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. Hi, my name is Ian Bell. I'm the current cadet colonel of the Grays, which is like the leader. I've only been in the Grays for 3 years, but you know, it's been the most reformative 3 years of my life. I was born with, ADHD and had trouble being attention in school. But after the Grays, I was taught discipline by our former cadet colonel, Solomon Rogatnik. And it really changed my life. And I've been able to pay attention to school. I'm an A+ student now, and it's been amazing. The leadership roles I've gotten from the Grays have taught me almost everything I need to know to work in any sort of job that you can out there. I joined up because I'm a historical reenactor. I've been reenacting since the age of 9, and I went to a reenactment, met the Grays, and I instantly got hooked on the history and everything. The Armory is our home, and I hope we can one day go back there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ian. David John's iPad.
What? Are you on?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Oh, he's having a panic attack. Nico. Yeah. Sorry, he just really wants to go back to the Armory. He's been going there since he was 7. My husband and I are tremendous fans of the arts mission of the Armory board. Mm-hmm. But the Grays have really been a tremendous force for good with little kids, and like their work with the women's shelter, and just going there every week is it's 800 square feet. Just please let them go back.
Well, I don't know if you can hear what his name is, but we'd love to hear from you. We understand if you don't want to speak up, but if you can hear me, thank you for joining. And if you want to speak, you can. If not, it's totally okay. Is he gonna pass?
What?
Is he gonna pass? Is your son there?
Yeah, I think he's gonna pass.
Totally okay. Totally okay. Thank you so much. Can we unmute Oscar, please?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Though. Of course, of course.
Nico, honey.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you. Hi, Oscar.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ilan Kahima. I'm a cadet at the Knickerbocker Grays for 4 years. What I'd like to do there is go to many places in New York, museum, West Point, police department, and participate in parades. We learn how to use bravery and leadership by leading other cadets during drills and color guards. We also earn ribbons and medals for what we do. Another important thing we do is meet people we don't know at events and get to know them by talking to them and learn who they are. Thank you for visiting and listening to us and the Knickerbocker Grays.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry I got your name wrong. I must have been saying your dad's name.
It's okay.
Thanks for coming and thanks for being so patient and waiting. If we could please unmute Michael and then after that, the Bellows family.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you. Thank you.
Hello?
Yep, can hear you.
All right, perfect. I'm Michael. Yeah, perfect. I'm Michael Karakis. I've been a Gray for 6 years. I left 3 years ago during COVID when the Grays did, and I've missed it ever since. The Grays have taught me leadership skills and social skills I could not learn anywhere else. You can't learn this at school, any other organization, and it's made a huge impact on my life. I miss it a lot. I think the Armory itself, with a history, the drilling in the halls that many cadets, hundreds of years before you have drilled, really gives a meaning to it. And I feel that drilling somewhere else would take that away. I remember about a year ago, I visited in New York when the Grays were at their COVID drill hall, and it just felt much different. It felt off, and I don't think new cadets that are joining get the same experience that I did when marching at the Armory. I've been through the ups and downs of the Grays many years, and it would really be a shame if they left this historic landmark. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining. If we could unmute the Bellows family.
Good evening. My name is Blake Gallows. I am in first grade. The Knickerbocker Grays is important to me because it teaches me discipline, love of country, and history. It gives me the choice to make new friends out of school. The Armory is our special home. Please let us stay in our home. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And if we could unmute the Pike family.
Thank you. And we have 2 girls here.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for waiting so patiently.
Hi, I'm Sophie Pike. I'm 9 years old. On my first day at the Knickerbocker Grays, I thought that the Knickerbocker Grays would be another boring program that wasted my time. But boy, was I wrong. The Grays was a place where I could learn and have fun at the same time. How that happened is I walked in and everyone was doing attendance. And I remembered that I had to say, Sophie Pike is reporting for duty. Then I knew that I would have an amazing time at the Grays. And the Grays, I remember that the Grays taught me about how to be responsible and about leadership and other important things.
Okay, and then Sophie, Anna, thank you.
Hi, Sophie.
I'm sorry, this is Anna. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Hi, Anna.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Anna Pike. I am 9 years old, and when I joined the Grays, I was really happy because we were drilling in this really big space in the 7th Regiment Armory, and it was really enjoyable to me because when I first got there, like my sister said, we had to do attendance, and I met some people, and then I instantly became friends with them, and then every Tuesday, I was looking forward to coming back to that place because I got to meet new friends and learn some great life lessons that I would be needing later in life. So when I get older, I can use them. And it was really helpful to me because I was able to have friends and I was able to learn integrity, leadership, and
bravery and how to properly carry a flag and do other things that I wouldn't have learned if I were not in the Grays.
Thank you so much, Anna. So that is, it seems, unless just like a last call for if you are on the Zoom and you are under the age of 18, raise your hand. If not, so we are, as we said at the beginning of the meeting, we are opening this next to members of the public who are not, so members of the public, community board members, we are going to get to you. You will not have a time limit. You will get to speak. You will get to ask questions. So if we could, and again, this will make it, well, I can see who has the community board tag, but if we, sounds like we have Trip Ward, who hadn't raised his hand earlier, who put 16 years old. If we can please unmute Trip Ward.
Hi, sorry, I'm on the street, so I don't have the video on.
Okay.
I've been a member of the Grays for 6 years, and I want to first thank Miss Robertson for the work that she's done to make this building so beautiful. And she used a lot of interesting words that I wanted to respond to, which is unity and community. And I think that the Grays really respond to that. Early on, she used another phrase that I didn't like, which was the privileged few, referencing us as though we had some kind of privilege. But I can tell you that I'm one of the scholarship students in the Grays, and I couldn't pay the fees, and they made it available to me anyway. And I know that a lot of other Grays also come from economically challenged backgrounds, and I didn't know if maybe she knew that part. And I just wanted to say that every family should have an extra dad like Colonel Menegon in their family, and that's kind of what he's been to us. He's been like an extra dad, and the space that we are in is very special to us. We're very respectful of it, and I think that we're good contributors to the community that that Miss Robertson was speaking of, and I wanted to thank you for the time.
Thank you, Trip, for joining. If we could unmute Wilson again now. We are moving to members of the public. If you're a community board member and you have your hand raised, please lower it, or Will's going to lower it for you. This is just how we run our committee. We prioritize hearing from members of the public, and especially from youth and parents. And so we will get to you, and you will not have a time limit, but we're going to move in quick order to the 1 minute time limit. If we can unmute Wilson Bazant from the Grays.
Hi, good evening to the board and everyone listening. My name is Will Bazant. I'm a cadet at Norwich University. I'm contracted to the United States Marine Corps, and I'll be attending Officer Candidate School at Quantico in a few short weeks. When I'm not a student, I work as a firefighter and an EMT and for a state law enforcement agency. The reason I share this is to express my belief that none of these experiences would be my reality without the Grays. As a child growing up in the Upper West Side, I was exposed to so many amazing opportunities and life lessons that opened my mind to the world. However, the Grays filled a niche that no other could. It exposed me to the concept of military discipline bearing years earlier than most, allowing me to conceptualize what a life of public service could look like. I struggle to envision another organization successfully filling the same role. I hope that as a collective, we can work towards letting an organization whose physical footprint is so small and unhindering, but whose impact on young men and women's life choices and experiences is so profound, continue to do their good work for the coming generations of NYC's youth as it did for mine. I think this goal is entirely realistic to achieve in parallel with the new caretakers of the Armory. I fail to see why the numerous examples of amazing artistic presentation that Ms. Robertson presents to us cannot exist in tandem with the Knickerbocker Grays. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your service and congratulations. If we could please unmute Murphy Bright.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Major Murphy Bright, United States Marine Corps Reserves. I was a Knickerbocker Gray from 1990 all the way through 9/11 and was the cadet colonel in 2003. Without the Grays, well, I grew up on the Upper East Side. I was dyslexic, as like a lot of the other cadets said, kind of was lost, didn't really have a lot of friends, and didn't understand the sense of community. And the Grays gave me all of that. They taught me discipline, leadership, and more importantly, giving back to the community. And I served with amazing individuals from all walks of life. We were not inclusive and we were open. And the thesis of this is without the Grays, I would not have been able to get through college, get my MBA, become United States Marine Corps, do multiple combat deployments, as well as start my own company. And I really credit all those successes really to the Grays because it gave me the foundation to be able to do all those things. So I don't see why we can't find a common space with the Armory and stay there. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your service. If we could please unmute Whitney.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. My name is John Whitney. I was cadet colonel 1977. My brother is actually cadet colonel in 76. I'd like to echo the previous cadet colonel, his comments about specifically on leadership. I started my first company in 1997. Everything that I've done in my career has been based on some of the lessons that I learned at the Knickerbocker Grays, the ability to move from a private to a corporal, up to a sergeant, to a command a company, to a battalion, to cadet colonel. These are leadership talents for men and women, regardless of your socioeconomic background, that have huge benefits and effects for your entire life, and not only your lives, but the lives of your family members as well. This is something that should be praised and recognized and held up as an example. The only one last comment is perhaps the Armory would prefer that the Knickerbocker Grays change its name to the Knickerbocker Grays Artists Group. And that maybe that we would, the Grays would fit in more carefully then. I'm not sure, but it should be preserved. The history there is fantastic for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. If we could unmute Judy Schneider. I can't even call you a member of the public. Have such a long history with Community Board 8. So Judy, please.
Thank you. I had a question for Rebecca Robertson or whoever. I don't know where the Fifth Avenue Armory is. If she could tell us where that's located, and how would that location affect the Grays if they were to move to that location? So maybe that's a two-part question, one for Rebecca and one for the Grays.
Yeah, so Judy, we just to be consistent and fair, we haven't allowed for members of the public to actually ask questions of either Adrian or Rebecca.
Okay.
So I will take your question, and as soon as we open it up to the board, I will make sure myself or Rami or Vanessa ask your question.
Thank you.
Of course. Can we unmute Charles, please?
Hold on one second.
Sure.
Hello.
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you. My name is Dr. Charles Cotillo. I'm a Grays board member, and all I can say in conjunction with what's already been said by both adults and children is how much of an important community and neighborhood resource the Knickerbocker Grays are. That's been the case for well over 100 years, and it should be the case going forward. And I think it's particularly egregious that the Armory, the Conservancy at the Armory, is unable or unwilling to accommodate the Grays to such a small space percentage-wise in terms of their overall setup. And I hope that the community board takes that into account in terms of the resolution that it passes dealing with this subject. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Catino. If we could please unmute Arthur Gallagher. Adrian, I'm just going to give you a heads up. I am not going to be calling on you. You had 15 minutes in the beginning, and so this is really for members of the public to have an opportunity. So we're going to lower your hand, but if we could hear from Arthur. Adrian, are you pointing, saying that somebody else that's with you wants to speak? Okay, then we will.
Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Arthur, please.
Yeah, I was in the U.S. Army and the New York National Guard, and I never had anything to do with the Grays, but I always thought they were such wonderful people, and they were such fine young people, boys and girls, and I was always impressed by them. And they're a neighborhood group. The Fifth Avenue Armory, I used to have to go up there. That was the 369th. I can't imagine. You can't even get up there. My recollection, you got to go over to the West Side first if you're using public transportation. It's almost at Yankee Stadium. It's on the river. It's not in the community. So, I mean, these are nice people in the Knickerbocker Grays. They're good people, and they do good work with all sorts of people. And just as a former member of the U.S. Army, they impressed me. They were nice people. They did good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, we can unmute Adrian if somebody is speaking other than Adrian.
Adrian, you'll have to unmute. There
Yes.
you go.
Thank you, Howard Rogatnik. I listened very carefully to what Ms. Robinson said, and I have a few comments on it. First of all, as Adrian said, there's no right to evict on the part of the Conservancy. They're not the landlord. They don't own the Armory that's owned by the state of New York and the people of New York. She alluded to a 2006 letter. She quoted one line from that letter completely out of context. I wrote a letter to Senator Kruger discussing in some detail that letter. It actually contemplates that the Grays would continue to make arrangements with the Conservancy, and that the Conservancy has a responsibility to allow them to continue their activities at the Armory. In fact, that's what's been done since 2006.
16 years.
Other comments, at one point, the presidents of the Conservancy asked, well, it said, we're sure that the Grays care about the education of children. We do. I'm asking, does she care about the education of the Grays children?
Thank you.
Can I finish?
Honestly, like, it was nice enough of me to let you speak when you're literally sitting next to Adrian, who had 15 minutes to present. If we could please unmute Garrett. And Garrett, thank you so much. I know you are here from Assemblyman Wright's office. Oh,
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So good evening. I'm Garrett, here to speak on behalf of Assemblymember Rebecca C. Wright, in support of the Knickerbocker Grays.
Garrett, can you turn your video off? I think the audio will be better.
Oh, yeah. Is that better?
Yep.
Better?
Well,
All right. I'll talk louder.
Oh, this is much better. Go ahead.
When we heard that the Grays were being threatened with eviction, we called and wrote to President Robertson of the Park Armory Conservancy. The Grays use only 800 square feet of the Armory, less than 1% of its total space, and as we just learned, for a couple hours just each week. Yet the callous response we received from the Conservancy paints the Grays as an insignificant and disposable part of the Armory's history. I reject these assertions, and I have personally witnessed the admiration and camaraderie and composure of the Grays, their parent leaders, in conducting ceremonial events throughout our community, including the East Side World War I Commemoration Committee, and recently a vigil for war-torn Ukraine. As you will hear tonight, and as we've heard already, the Corps of Cadets is inclusive, representative of the community, BIPOC communities, those with disabilities, and every socioeconomic background there is. For thousands of children across the city who have participated, this cherished activity is their whole world, as we've heard many kids tonight say. We can't rob our youth of these opportunities, and we will not back down. I stand united with my fellow elected colleagues in support of the Knickerbocker Grays and their 120-year legacy of the Armory. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much, Garrett. If we could please unmute Elizabeth.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, you can. Let me just try to get my, I think if I put my video, it's gonna.
We can hear you.
You can hear me, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you, good evening. I just want to thank everyone for giving me the opportunity. Some of my talking points have already been covered, but I think there's one thing that I would like to address. And I think as Rebecca has gone through all the amazing things that are happening at the Armory, my feeling, and I'm getting a sense, and someone just touched on it, about their relationship with the Grays. The Conservancy is a tenant. It is a tenant just like the Knickerbocker Grays are. And I'd like to know at what point is there bullying and marginalizing opinions of other people, especially Adam Slater. I concern is that the Conservancy has taken it upon themselves.
Yep. So I'm gonna, there are 15 hands that are still raised. I think in the interest of time, I think it is abundantly clear that there are a lot of folks on this Zoom that are sharing perspectives that we definitely want to hear. But I think, again, we try to run efficient meetings and not have them go 4 hours long. If I could ask that everyone who has their hand raised lower their hands. And then I would just like to get a sense of whether folks who had their hands raised have some unique perspective, a different perspective, a perspective that, we have not heard. I think we have heard pretty loud and clear from a lot of folks. Okay.
Diana, sorry to interrupt, but lower hands and keep them down, please.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to
lower your hand and keep them down.
We're gonna
until-
ask something else of the participants in one moment.
We are just trying to get a sense again to we want to also have an opportunity for members of Community Board 8. Thank you, all of you that have joined to actually ask questions. There are a number of members of the public that have asked questions that we want to allow, for example, Rebecca Robertson from the Armory to answer. And thank you, Rebecca, for still being on. And I don't want to make any assumptions of how long you can stay on. So if you had your hand raised, and again, we're not trying to be dismissive of your perspective, and we want to hear from you. But if you are a member of the public and you had your hand raised and you still feel like you have a perspective that has not been shared, please keep your hand raised. Otherwise, we're going to do sort of a vote. Rami, can you run this? Or
Yes. Please lower your hands because I don't know which way you're voting and we haven't announced anything.
Great.
And keep them down, please. I can't emphasize this enough. If everybody looks to the bottom of their screen in the area where you raised your hands, the reactions menu, there's a bunch of options. So there's raise hand, there's like a clapping, a thumbs up, other emojis, and then there's a green check mark, a red X, and other symbols. I'm gonna ask everyone on the call currently to click on the reactions icon. And if you're here to support the Grays, please click the green check mark.
And we're going to give folks a minute to do
Yeah.
that.
Again, if you go to the reactions icon at the bottom of your screen, if you're on a mobile device, tap your screen and then click the reactions icon, and then click the green check mark.
And I just want to add, I think, again, we're really, and I hope that everyone agrees, are trying to run a very neutral meeting. It is not that if you are here in support of the Grays, I think that you can be here and support the Grays and the great work they do, and you can also be here and support the Armory and the incredible work that the Armory is doing in the arts. If you are here in support of the Grays remaining at the Armory, please put the check mark.
You have 108 right now, 109.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's just give
out of
folks,
175, just for the visual
let's
record.
just give folks like 20 more seconds.
Board members are welcome to
Yep.
do a green check mark as well. Again, the reactions icon, the green check mark. If that is too difficult, raise your hand.
So you're still about 110.
Okay.
Okay, so by an overwhelming majority, folks that are here to speak in support of the Grays remaining at the Armory and to speak on that side of the issue. Again, we're really trying to run this as fairly as possible and also not have folks be on this Zoom, till tomorrow. So, at this point, we run our committee meetings. I mean, again, we've never had like such a great turnout, and I hope you guys come back next month and the month after to talk about a lot of other youth and education issues. We really appreciate everyone we heard from, especially the young people that joined us. There are a few hands that are still up, which leads me to believe that these are people that feel they have a perspective to share that has not been shared. So if we could please unmute in this order: Eileen, Annie. We already heard from the Pike family, so I'm going to skip ahead and go back to you, Stephanie Grays and Edward Major.
Okay. Are you ready for Eileen Murphy to start?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Eileen Murphy, I'm an Armory neighbor, parent of 3 former Grays, and a former board member. This is complicated, a lot of complicated facts, rules, laws, but with respect to the 2006 letter, that was something that came from a facilities manager to the Grays. I was the lucky recipient of that. And it basically said, if we weren't planning to stay in the Armory after there was a new sheriff in town, we should remove our belongings. If we were planning to stay, we should negotiate licenses. And we had, we weren't worried, let's put it that way. And I'm gonna need at least another minute. And I think this is important. So it wasn't necessary for us to worry too much because we had assurances from the Conservancy there'd still be a home for the Grays. We have board minutes that support this statement. There was no mention
I
of.
can't grant you another minute when 170 people are here. I really, like, unless you're, I mean, I think I've been pretty neutral and fair. I'll give you another 15 seconds if you'd like.
Okay, well, we were supported by Council Member Garodnick. We were encouraged by Elihu Rose, who is a member of the Conservancy, to tell the Conservancy our needs and even our wishes. I want to remind people that the cadet core room was in the original plan of the building. And actually,
Thank
if
you,
I could just,
I really have to
put
be,
something.
I really have to be fair. No, you
Can I-
cannot. I've
can
been
I read-
really, really fair. I'm sorry. We have to mute you. If we could please move on to Annie, please.
Good evening. My son wanted to be on. He would kill me if I didn't speak for him tonight. He's in England studying, so they took away his phone. He cannot be. He wants to make the point that he learned at the Grays some concepts that are out of fashion, such as honor, responsibility, integrity, patriotism, respect, and empathy. He's 16 now. He's a young man of whom I'm quite proud. He left the Grays because he's in England. His brother also was a Grey, and they didn't have to pay anything to be in the Grays like most other people. The Grays certainly don't have the millions that Miss Robertson has, and there is no reason to support one or the other. The
Please, no
Grays ask for
personal
very
attacks.
little space.
No personal
The
attacks.
tradition
Don't do
for the
that.
Grays is very important, and they should stay in the place where they have always been. There is no reason to evict them from the place where they should be, and they are part of the story.
Thank you. And again, I'm going to remind that we run this committee, like, it is very important to us. We're a youth and education committee. We like to set a model and a standard for how we operate. And so as adults, please no personal attacks. If we could please unmute the Pike family.
Okay, I think you can hear me, right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thanks. So Colonel Tom Pike, and you heard from my daughters, I was also a Gray. So my relevant information I wanted to add, first in the 1970s when I was a cadet, it really wasn't that much different in the Armory building. It was very busy. It was full of a unit, that's true, answering national security issues, but they also had an antique show. They had several events. And the cadets have always been involved in preserving this building. In the 1970s, I personally helped sign petitions so we could stop the Jewel floor from being torn down and turned reportedly into a casino. So the building's always been very busy, and it's special for the Grays because it's centrally located in Manhattan, which allowed me to have friends coming in from Queens and Brooklyn, the Lower East Side, Lower West Side. I supported FEMA and 11 public hospitals during the COVID mission for this city, and the military support to the Javits Center. And I know General Bank, and the idea of the Harlem Armory is not as good as it's feasible as it's being presented, because I've been there. There's only one subway.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. And again, I apologize. Thank you for your service. We are going to again ask if everybody who has their hand raised could lower their hands. I'm reading it like the subject descriptions of your names. This is Gray's parent. If you have a new perspective to add, if you are here to speak in support of the perspective of the Grays not needing to be at the Armory, then keep your hand raised. If not, I think we have heard plenty, and we are so grateful for everyone that showed up. So Stephanie Gray's parent, if I'm about to unmute you and you were about to say something other than you want the Grays to stay at the Armory, we will unmute you, but please.
Thank you so much, Tanya, for letting me speak. I'll be brief. You can hear me, right?
Yes. Yep.
Great. I'm a mother. My son was with the Grays at the age of 4 and was there until he was the age of 18. And my unique perspective is what the Grays does for parenting. We talked about the kids, but what it does for parenting is amazing. It allowed all of us to share in our struggles, be better parents, raise better kids, and take it all back to our different communities. I think it was an opportunity for cross-cultural relationships to develop. I learned more about business, etiquette, running a board. I took those things back to different places in my life. We brought in children from the Bronx, throughout the boroughs. So it was a privilege to be there because we were able to all create a melting pot that truly exists in Manhattan. So I just thank you so much for letting me speak, and thank you so much, for being interested.
Thank you, Stephanie. If we could unmute David, please.
Hi, my name is David Bros. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi. I just want to point out that this is the third group that I have a connection with that's been displaced from the Armory. Each of these has been a community group. I don't understand the reason for this. There's plenty of resources there that can be shared by all in the community. To move a group 80 blocks, 100 blocks away, I don't think is viable. It destroys the group. You're talking 4 or 5 miles, and there's an accessibility issue. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A. Edward Major, and again, and I'm gonna start being ruthless. I think I've been very kind. If you are sharing a perspective that is truly unique and has not been shared, then we are happy to hear from you. But if you are repeating or even close to similar to what somebody has said, please lower your hand so that we can get to community board members to ask questions and allow Ms. Rebecca Robertson to answer some of the questions that have been addressed to her. A. Edward Major.
I'll be short and sweet.
Thank you.
I was a cadet myself. My son was a cadet, made cadet colonel, and I served on the Veterans Board for, I think, 5 years. My dedication to the Grays was greater than my university, my high school, my grammar school, and even law school. It was a tremendous experience for all of us, families, and the children who participated. I'm also well aware of the fact that the Grays was very accommodating to the conservatory, the conservancy, and moved around, changed times to accommodate the work of the conservators, whose work we greatly otherwise applaud. Thank you.
Thank you. Anne, please.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I just wanted to add very quickly the perspective of a Grays family that lives downtown, and to say, for everyone to remember logistically, this is an after-school activity, and that especially for people that already live some distance from the Armory, the new or proposed location simply puts it out of reach logistically for any child that lives downtown to get there after school and to get back and still have time to do their homework and function as a student. So effectively, it would put it off limits to any child that doesn't live uptown. We would no longer be able to participate.
Thank you, Anne. Whitney?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, quick statement. I was the last cadet colonel to have over 100 cadets. That's my memory. Knickerbocker Grays used to have 300 cadets. We're not at that level. We're nowhere near that level. Hopefully we'll get back to that level. Question I have for Rebecca is this. Is it the space? And this is the key question, I think. Is it the space you need, or is it you want the Grays out of the drill hall? Because they're two separate issues. Here's my point. Allow the Grays to stay where they've always been because of the access to the building. If you need space, the Grays I will pay for will find a space near the Knickerbocker Grays where someone can actually access whatever they need for the Grays and then go in. But you cannot, in my estimation, remove the Grays physically. If that's what you want, you got a bigger fight on your hand. If it's just about a closet or room in the basement, we can find some accommodations. So Rebecca, what do you want? Do you want the Grays out, or you just want a closet in the basement? Question.
Thank you, Whitney. Again, as I mentioned, when we open it up to community board members, we will try to synthesize the questions, but please, again, please keep the tone cordial and the attacks non-existent. Jim Roberts, please.
Thank you. I thank you for allowing me to speak. I represent someone who was a member of a association that after 67, almost 70 years, was forced out of the Armory between 07 and 10 in that time frame. And we've had a very difficult time and really don't have a permanent location yet. We have places we meet, but it's very difficult. The Armory, as they said, the Fifth Avenue Armory is far uptown and would make it incredibly difficult for the Grays. And the Grays really do so much good, not so much just in the work that they do in supporting other entities, but in the creation of really strong, good men out of boys. I congratulate the Grays, as I also congratulate the Conservancy on wonderful work they've done. They can do it together. Thank you.
Thank you. It sounds like there's also some like very awesome little girls involved in the program, so not just boys. Angelique?
Thank you. I'll be brief. My husband and I have supported the Knickerbocker Grays for the last 20 years, and we've watched so many of the cadets grow into productive members of our society. I think that we can all agree here that the last thing New York City needs is yet another theater. It also comes across as quite hypocritical for the Conservancy to speak about their drive and compassion to help one youth group while proposing to kick another youth group out of the Armory. A youth group, might I add, who's been in the space for 120 years, which is far longer than the Conservancy or any other tenant. What will help New York City and the community at large is an after-school program that teaches our youth discipline, responsibility, and love of community as well as country. That's the Knickerbocker Grays. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then we are cutting it after Nina, so we will do, sorry, I can't see the last name, Grays, George, then Nina, and then I'm going to turn it.
You hear me?
Yes.
Hi, yeah, my name is George Clark. I was a Gray for 6 years, former cadet colonel for about a year and a half. The Grays are a unique piece of New York history as well as American history. I mean, some of the alumni have been quite important. But the Grays, in my experience, has been incredibly generous and has given kids access to some of the most, important experiences that they otherwise wouldn't have had. And if they are forced to move up to the Armory on Fifth Avenue, and that is, puts it in a way, any risk of not giving kids as much access anymore, it would be tragic. So let the Grays stay in the Armory. It's their home.
Thank you, George. And then Nina, and then I'm going to turn it over to my co-chair, Rami Segal, who's going to summarize the many questions that were posed and some of the questions that us as committee co-chairs have. And then thank you so much for the patience of all of the community board members that are here. We will then turn it over to you. You will not have a time limit and you will get to ask questions and give your opinion. So Nina, please.
Nina, you're going to have to connect some form of audio to your Zoom to be able to unmute. Should be a button that says connect device audio.
Is Nina able to hear us?
Yeah, and
yeah,
then
you can hear without connecting to audio.
Oh,
she's connecting.
There you go. You'll have to now confirm unmuting on your screen. All right.
Hi, Nina.
hello.
Nina, we cannot hear you if you are speaking.
All right, sorry, Nina, we're going to move this along. So I'm going to turn it over to Rami, who will summarize some questions. And then for our community board members, again, we will open it up to you. I think, Rebecca, I think you are still on. Thank you for your patience and for staying on. I definitely did not know that you would have to stay on this long to answer questions. Just in terms of a recap, none of the questions that came up from the public were for Adrian and the Grays. There were about 3 or 4, and they were all for you. So Rami will do sort of a summary, and then if we could unmute Rebecca and allow her the opportunity to address the questions that were asked, and then open it up to the board. So Rami.
Yes, thank you. To answer one question that I can answer myself, the Fifth Avenue Armory is approximately at 143rd Street and Fifth Avenue, so pretty far uptown. So that answers one question. Another question is, what exactly is the issue? So is it an issue with the Gray's closet space or the space on the, I believe it's the 4th floor of the Armory that they're taking up as their headquarters, or is it an issue with the drill space on like the drill floor, or both?
Can we unmute Rebecca, please?
Yeah, thank you. So the issue is they actually don't use the 4th floor. The 4th floor is where the shelter is. And they don't really honestly use the drill hall very often either, because we, as I said, are booked 364 days a year in that drill hall at the moment. So really the issue is we've just gotten to the point where we literally have no space left. We're on the 11th phase of our renovation of the building. We're creating a new entrance at 66th Street, which will be handicap accessible, and because we can't redo the stairs in the front because it's landmarked, and they really are extremely difficult. Also, we have our final major infrastructure upgrade. So we're basically, for those of you who've been down in the basement, you know that it's the one area we really haven't done anything to, and now is the time to get it done. So our issue is that we literally are so full, we are doing so many different things that we have to go out to rent space outside. So we really did try to be helpful. We went to General Klein, and I'm sure he has some other ideas. I'm sure he's willing to work with you. But we got the lease to create this organization that we've created, this arts organization, this arts education organization, and to be the sort of conservator of the building itself and make sure that it's taken care of after it was so poorly taken care of. And that really is what our mission is. And it was always going to be a time that we would come to this. So I'm afraid that's just the case. This is why there were year-to-year license agreements. So,
okay, thank you. So a follow-up question is, one of the documents submitted by, I don't remember which party at this point, is the cover page of the lease for both for the 7th Regiment Armory Conservancy. And I'm looking at the cover sheet, and it says, agreement of the lease between the people of the state of New York landlord acting through the Empire State Development Corporation as agent and the 7th Regiment Armory Conservancy Incorporated, which is a tenant. Who exactly owns the armory? Who controls the land?
Mute myself.
There we go.
Have I unmuted? Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
you're
Correct.
unmuted.
I can also, yeah. So the land is owned by the city. The building is owned by the state. The shelter is under agreement with the city. And the National Guard, the same thing. So the premises that we have occupancy in and we have the lease for does not include the 4th floor shelter, nor the offices, the relatively small offices space of the National Guard.
So just to be clear, are you under the legal authority as a landlord to actually evict the Knickerbocker Grays from the space that they occupy?
We have the right to, under our agreement.
Under your agreement with whom? The state?
With the state of New York. So it's a lease that imposes obviously obligations upon us. One was to keep the building maintained and pour millions, as you've seen, dollars into it to turn it into an arts organization that would be a benefit to bring more people into the building and be a benefit from financial benefit to the city and the state. So these are the obligations that we had to make. We've met those obligations. And so basically we have the right to own or to occupy the building and to operate it. We
And
are
is
the
the
operators
state
of the building.
Is the state of
I'm
New
sorry, the premises. I got to say the premises, which
Is
does not
this-
include the shelter.
And is the state of New York in agreement with your decision to evict the Knickerbocker Grays from the property?
I tell you, I don't honestly think, I don't know the answer to that question. I don't believe that it makes that much difference, but yeah, I mean, not of course, we'd be interested in the state of New York's opinion, but I don't believe under our lease
Yeah,
that
sure,
the
look,
state of New York has a role in this particular action.
Well, they do, right? Because the letter that you shared with us, right? Like we're trying to be fair. And so the notice of eviction and the letter that you shared with us does actually have letterhead from officials from the state of New York that is over 10 years old, right? And so it's critically important to us to understand whether the current administration and state officials actually agree with what was stated in that letter, which is over a decade old. So it is actually quite important.
Yeah. No, the only reason that we mentioned that is that we were trying to say that when the state did say, give them, and it's called notice to vacate and remove all property, just to be very clear, this was a letter of notice to vacate.
In 2006, correct?
I'm sorry?
In 2006, correct? Or
Right.
in 2020?
So the only reason I bring it up was because it points out that there's no right of occupancy on the part of the Grays. And what I was trying to say was that, we nonetheless went ahead and said, because we were given the rights to operate the building, we thought, well, we don't need the space right now. We're just new. We don't know how it's going to go. We could imagine maybe someday we will, because our programs will become big enough and sort of important enough that we really need every space. This could happen. And in fact, it has. So that's the situation we're in. We just don't have the space. We're out renting space ourselves. So it's really a very difficult situation right now.
Okay, so a follow-up to that. I don't believe the Grays pay rent to the Conservancy or the state, correct?
They have never paid rent. They're the only people in this building that
Are they obligated to pay rent?
No, we thought that it would be okay not to do that.
Okay.
We, of course, do way more than just pay rent for this building. As you know,
no, I understand
millions of dollars for it.
Yeah, I understand that. And I'm not questioning the Armory's grounds, but I'm just asking, like, is there, besides space, is there other grounds to evict? Like, have they been bad tenants? Have they, like, I don't know, left the state of disrepair?
Yeah, you know what? Our issue is that we need the space. We're very respectful of the Grays, honestly. So I just want that to be really clear. So we just need the space now because we're growing outside the bounds, and we are the operator of the building to use it.
Yeah, but you don't own it. And so just to be clear, Ms. Robertson, like it has been, and
you can call me Rebecca, it's okay.
Okay, I'm being respectful, right?
No problem.
Ed, I feel like you're bursting out of the seams. We're going to call on you shortly. Don't you worry. I hope you respect and can appreciate that we've gotten an extraordinary amount of input from folks and a lot of different documentation and perspectives from elected officials. And so, and it is, and I think you've essentially admitted, right? Like it is very unclear sort of like what your role is in
no I'm
actually
sorry.
being able to please
Taina,
please let me speak. I let you
yeah, you're right. Yeah,
right. It's like you have provided legal documentation and letters that are very legitimate, but they're also from over a decade ago, right? And so it is and you are also not the landowner of the property, right? And so, or the landlord, right? And then we've heard very legitimate arguments, and we've heard actually quite consistent from both sides perspectives on the space that the Knickerbocker Greys currently occupy in the Armory, which is really not a lot. They're not drilling there. They have some space there, right? And so we're really just trying to piece together the facts for the community, right? And we also are showing up to a community board Zoom meeting that has never in years, okay, had this level of attendance, right? And so as a transparent and very fair, and I hope you agree, like I have been tried to be fair leading up to this, but I'm also showing up to chair a committee meeting where the exorbitant majority of people that are showing up here are showing up making a case for the Knickerbocker Greys staying in the community. And so the questions that we ask you, we are summarizing. Please.
Aina, can I just say one thing?
Please.
There is a legal answer, and I'm just not a lawyer, but we will get to the legal answer. We absolutely have the right to do this.
Okay.
The legal right. Very, very clear. And I also want to say it was always a possibility.
I will say there are a lot of letters.
The old no good deed goes unpunished.
Letters from elected officials in our local community that know the law, that disagree, and that believe that the state of New York has a right to intervene here. And so we're going to open it up to members of the community board.
One second. Hold on. I got two quick questions. What is the cost of keeping the Greys in the Armory? Like, what is the cost to the Armory besides space? Is there a financial cost? Do you pay for water for them? I don't know. You're muted.
Let's unmute Rebecca. Rebecca's muted. Let's unmute her. We have to do that, Rebecca. Just, yeah, go ahead.
No. Well, you got to confirm on meeting.
Okay, there we are. Yeah, okay. No, the thing is that the way not-for-profits, are able to grow and thrive is that we have to do our programs properly. And we need the space to properly do our programs. We have to build this entrance for our more elderly audiences and for those that are in wheelchairs that is accessible and works and is not sort of you're feeling you're coming, always not through a main entrance. This is a very important, this issue of accessibility, physical, psychological is very, very important to us. So this is something that's always been in our master plan. It was something we're always going to do. The major upgrades require the construction on that level. So we need to do that for sure. We are going to spend money to do it, but that's so we can do our job properly.
Right.
The fact that we let them have the space, let the Greys have the space for free was just because honestly, it's trying to be nice.
I mean, it's possible that the state of New York lets them have the space for free. Yeah. So Rami, are you ready?
And one last question. Do the Greys have any legal agreement with the Conservancy? Do you have the Greys signed any papers with you guys?
They have through the years. Since COVID has happened, it has not happened. So there's a year-to-year agreement because it was always going to be at the end of it was always every year gets decided.
Okay, but where is the legal document? Because we asked, I believe Taina and the board office and for public for notice purposes, we asked for any and all documents, correct? Okay. Or any documents that pertain to this issue. So if there's a written agreement, because it's not just, at least to me, it doesn't seem like something.
Yeah, and I think I want to move on to the members of the community board, Rami. Like Rebecca, if there are legal documents, and I recognize what you're saying. I'm not an attorney either. If there are legal documents that you are saying that you have and you can provide, please send them after. I think if that's the case, and then you probably should have brought an attorney here, but I think
I didn't know that. Sorry.
All right. Well, you knew the topic of the conversation. So we're going to open it up to board members, and Rami's going to run this, but let's unmute Michelle.
Thank you. Michelle, can we unmute Michelle?
Yes, now I'm unmuted. Thank you very much. I wanted to speak tonight because I come to this from a little different perspective with a lot of history here. I was a founder and a member of an organization that was organized when the Conservancy with the Economic Development Corporation first proposed to take over the Armory. We had an organization named Spark. Adrian, you had that on one of your documents, but the acronym was reversed. I think you had SRAK or whatever, but I think you were referring to Spark. And our concern at that time, and that's when this happened, which was, what are we saying, 2006 or whatever, that this building was going to be taken up. It's a revered building with a revered history. It has its own landmark status, and we have great respect and concern for it in the community, both for what the operation was going to be and also for the preservation of the building. The operation was going to be, it was always proposed to turn it into a performing arts center. There was a donation made by the Wade family. If my recollection is correct, it was in the amount of about $30 million. And that gave them the naming rights and the drill hole naming rights and whatever else. At that time, to bring a historic perspective, our great concern was how poorly the veterans were being treated, how poorly the 7th Regiment was being treated. And in fact, there was a lawsuit going on that went back and forth. And it was like the situation is today with the Greys. It was a David and Goliath situation. The vets had very little means to fight this. The Conservancy was very well funded, endowed, great support. Our concern was on two fronts, and I think it's important that you know this history. One was the preservation of the building, because the projection and the respect for the veterans. The artifacts were removed upstate. The claims of restoration of the building were valid, and a lot of restoration certainly was done. However, bear in mind that most of that restoration and preservation that was done was in fact so that it could be converted to a performing arts center, so that there were dressing rooms put in, lighting, new lighting, and whatever it would take to turn it into theaters as opposed to the Armory that it currently was. Now, were there leaks? There were. Was there a problem with the roof? There was. No question about all that. And we're very grateful to the Conservancy for all the good work that they did and for the beautiful performances that they are bringing to us. I did read their entire lease at the time that it came out. The very last page of that lease listed organizations, repertories, orchestras, dance organizations from all over the world, that there was a hope that it would come to the Armory. The aim was to make it a big performing arts center, and that was the wishes of the Wade family. And it was to the detriment of the history. The name was removed. It's not called the 7th Regiment Armory anymore. The drill hall was renamed, and we were concerned about that preservation. But it wasn't all this altruistic, it's great. Everybody loves a performing arts center, but frankly, I don't think it was a good thing for the community, because our concern was where it has been hosting antique and art shows, which had a flow of people coming in from, say, 11 in the morning until 8 at night, various numbers, and because of fire restrictions, it had a limit on the inside, which at that time, I think if they put a revolving door into the space in the back, they could have 1,350. They're looking for 4,000 seat occupancy. Our concern was that when they brought in performances that started at 8 and ended at 11, you were in fact going to very negatively impact the community, because you would have all these people, like in the theater district, dumped into the street with all the chattering and the noise and whatever it took, and the surrounding community is residential. So that is a lot the history. The artifacts were removed and sent upstate for a very long time. We didn't know where they were. We didn't know what was happening to them. There is still a plan, and I'm hoping that's not the case for this new handicap accessibility plan, because you do have an entrance on Lexington where when you walk in, it's flat, it's level with the street, but the interior of that entrance has 2 steps down. It's an enormous space, easy to put a ramp in there for accessibility. Others have used it, and I've been privy to that. And I'm very, very familiar with the interior of this space because I myself in the art business did art shows there. There were plenty of complaints of the long time businesses that did business there, complained of the rates went up and all kinds of, we were concerned about the zoning that had to be violated to put the big banners up. So it hasn't all been a picnic. This goes back a long way with, to my mind, while you did a beautiful job, absolutely fabulous for what your aim was, absolutely fabulous. Nobody could dispute it. Nobody can dispute it. However, I'm still concerned that your aim is to have 4,000 people in there. And to do that, you are going to want to cut 2 big entrances in the walls of this armory, which I see you're shaking your head now. But that, however, was planned originally. So lots may have changed. We are going back quite a number of years. We understand that. The point of me expressing this so that everybody knows, there has been an argument here over all these many years about the respect for the history, for the 7th Regiment, for the vets that were there, for the building itself. We have shown great concern, and now we're seeing it for the Knickerbocker Greys. I was at a Knickerbocker Grey meeting. They didn't even use a room. They met for 1 hour and they used the hallway on the 1st floor, I guess it was. They met down in the basement where the kids either got their uniforms or into their uniforms, and they got whatever equipment they needed. They went up to the 1st floor and they literally marched in the hallway. This was for an hour. Now, how this could be such an enormous inconvenience and a problem for the use of your space is very, very, very difficult for me to comprehend. It just seems that if you wanted to, if that hallway wasn't convenient for you, if the basement meeting place, if that's a space that you now want to renovate, with all the hallways, with all the little rooms, with all the little spaces, the old cafeteria, although I think that was on the 3rd or 4th floor, wherever it was, it's a nook and cranny. It's a pittance. It's a nothing. And with all your and rightfully so, being very proud of being a part of the community and extending your welcome mat to other members of other communities and all the community programs that you're interested in, here in your lap, on your premises, is the one community activity that makes the least impact and is truly a community activity, and that's the one you would like to leave. So forgive me to saying, I cannot see this. I don't know what grounds you think you have legally. I suspect that if there are legal grounds, I suspect they will be used by whomever. And I'm sorry to see it turn into such a fight. And I really think you should go back to the drawing board, go back to your board, go back to the Thompsons if they're still active, go back to whoever you need to go back to, put your heads together with Knickerbocker Greys, also an enormously historic and important institution, to the Armory, to the community, to everyone here. Put your head together and come up with a solution. This is just like fighting over, I don't know what, like a room. You're fighting over a room that is maybe 30,000, 300 square feet or something. It's just outrageous. So if anybody has any more history questions or anything that you want to follow up on with me relative to that, but I just wanted you to know the picture. And so I'll end with that. Happy to answer questions later if anybody's interested. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. I see Ed. And actually, one point of order. I see members of the public still have their hands up. I'm sorry, General Sutton, but I'm gonna have to lower your hand. We're only taking points from board members, and Adrian, I'm sorry, but we gave you 15 minutes at the beginning. Ed, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Rami. General, you have my cell number. Send me a text. I'm happy to ask whatever question you have. I see you there. Nice to see you with us tonight. Marco, everyone. So I'm going to try to be very direct, discreet, succinct, well organized. I'm going to give you the conclusion first, and then I'm going to back it up. For parliamentary reasons, I won't make it. I'm sure Marco will, but I will support whatever motion this committee would vote out to do whatever we need to do, whether to follow up on Councilwoman Menon's letter. I know our Senator Kruger has reached out to the governor. I know many of our elected officials are already on board with this. I think some I've heard it about, that they're waiting to see what kind of turnout we have. I think it speaks for itself, res ipsa loquitur, since we're in a legal mode. A couple of things. I am very serious about this, but for a brief moment, I'll inject some levity. Two things come to mind visually for those of you on this board. The address 583 Park Avenue, and for those of you of a certain age, a movie entitled Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And those are the visuals that I have as I think about this project. I had the unique and spectacular opportunity yesterday to be inside that fantastic armory. And just to be very clear, it is that 300-foot vaulted ceiling in that spectacular drill hole that makes it unique in this country. It was the first of its kind because, full disclosure, 20 plus years ago, I saw an RFP about this very project as an attorney working for a firm. Second, I applaud you, the Conservancy. This is not a slight on you and the work you have done. But just from experience from my previous life, those of you know me professionally, in landmark preservation, parks, all of that, I have a particular family thing for the landmark law at work here. What I found is that sometimes people who take over these places have invested time and they begin to think of it as their own. And I'm afraid that is what's happening here with what's going on. I would again echo everybody who would say to Ms. Robertson, please point us to the section in the 175-page lease that gives you the right to toss the grays out. Second of all, as to the 2006 letter, I would just give you a quick term, latches. And the fact is you've let them stay over and over and over, apparently with this licensing agreement that we don't have, but we do have, but they don't pay rent on. I'm not here to debate that either. All I'm saying is it seems to have gone on and on, so I'll leave it to the lawyers, but I hope that you'll find space for them. It's 888 square feet. Let's be very clear about it. I've been downstairs. I've seen the space. It's at the bottom of a staircase. It's under the entranceway of coming into the armory. There is plenty of space in that basement. I don't know what kind of space you're going to need for this room, but what is more troubling, okay, we're on board with the Grays keeping the space. What I want to raise here is some issues that I would like the Landmarks Committee of this community board to start looking into, because as part of that walking around, that state-owned building on city property, which as a member of the community board and a member of this public and a member of New York City and everyone in it, I believe we have the right to walk into this building. But I will tell you that walking in, I got the immediate feeling that I was very not welcome, which was a little disturbing. Second of all, as we walked around, this building should be made accessible to the public 24 hours a day. It is spectacular. You will not see anything like it. I know I'm preaching to the choir and, whatever, it's spectacular. We should find a way. And I'm imploring our elected officials to open up some kind of, I don't think formal like investigation of wrongdoing, but look into what is going on here. I was on the second floor and we were looking at some of the spectacular rooms. There's a point here. They have rehabilitated several of the rooms and I applaud you for it. They are absolutely gorgeous, but there are 16 rooms. Only 3 of them have been finished. And my question is, how long has it taken for you to renovate these rooms? it is a very, very long time. And look, no disrespect. I know and understand. Once you crack open that wall, God knows. But the only other people who are going this slow on a project is the Parks Department. And so I'm just a little curious about that. But what also troubled me was this: we walked on the second floor. There was no one on the second floor, literally no one, other than one other individual. The Rogatniks were showing me around. There was an orange extension cord down the middle of the hallway, but we were told in no uncertain terms, that we had to vacate the second floor, and we were not allowed to be on the second floor because of actors' equity. And I'm very curious, and I would like to know the answer to this. What document, what legal thing does actors' equity have in this building? What are they doing? Their union rules dictate who comes in and out. I think it was made up. I think they didn't like us walking around. And that again goes back to the accessibility. And again, I applaud you, but you're creating an event space for a few people. I mean, yes, it's fantastic and it's wonderful, but you had 100 people in during the pandemic. I mean,
let's keep it civil.
So my point, Taina, please, if we're
just trying to keep
finally there. My point is there's some very serious issues that need to be looked into here. And so my point would be is to support the resolution, if I may, please.
There's no resolution.
Also
on
look
the
into
table.
what
There
is
no
actually
resolution on the
going,
table.
if I may, if I can, what is going on in terms of the administration of this building and the accessibility, and why the Grays have to come in and out through the basement door first. I mean, even why the poor women's shelter folks have to come in through the basement door. I mean, we talk about that on the housing committee, and I won't belabor it. We all know why it's a problem. And that is really what I'd like to raise, other than supporting whatever resolution we have to push whatever our elected officials have done to press the governor to find a way to step in here, if you all will not do it on your own, which I hope you will, to find space and accommodate the Grays, who are an integral part of this community.
That is fair. Thank you, Ed. I was just pointing out that there's no resolution on the table. You are welcome to introduce one. I will communicate that is very fair to the co-chairs of the Landmarks Committee. I think we've actually been questioned many times about why this subject matter ended up on our committee. And with our committee, there were several committees that felt that they had jurisdiction over this issue for many of the things that you raised. So I think we have Marco next.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you, Aina. Last Monday, I visited the Park Avenue Armory, 7th Regiment, which was built in 1879. And since 1881 to the present, the Knickerbocker Grays has been calling it their home. Indeed, according with the New York State Military Museum and Veterans, the status of this building is, quote, taken over by the 7th Regiment Armory Conservancy in 2006, currently home to Park Avenue Armory, not for profit. Veterans of the 7th Regiment, Veterans Corps of Artillery, and the Knickerbockers Gray. At the entrance of the building, there are two honorable plaques in honor of the Knickerbockers Gray. One of them is, quote, Honor Roll World War the Knickerbockers Gray, dated 1917 and 1918. And the other dated on 1941, 1946, in memory of those veterans of the Knickerbockers Gray who lost their lives in the World War II. In short, some of the heroic members were first Knickerbockers Gray, members who served our country, and some of them lost their lives. Therefore, we cannot afford to evict the Knickerbockers Gray from this facility because they are part of the history of this facility. It would dishonor to the memory of those Knickerbockers Gray that lost their lives. I commend the philanthropic efforts of the regiment Armory Conservancy Park Avenue Armory to the two programs, art and education, and maintain and repair the building. It also called their attention to its name, Conservancy. This means to preserve the building for the Little Patriots Knickerbocker's Grade 2. Not only the architectural tell us part of the history, but also these little Knickerbockers grade who are marching and honoring the flag of the United States inside of the building contemplates the sole history of this military fort building, and to evict them from this facility, that is so wrong. I hear that this building is too busy with a lot of activities. Well, I visited Durante its business hours last Monday between 1 to 12 noon. The corridor on my picture behind me is approximately 16 feet wide and 120 feet depth. As you can see, it is empty. Even though in the main saloon, there are many workers preparing for a new exhibition. Therefore, it is contradicting Mrs. Robertson's point of view. The cellar corridor is approximately 12 feet by 100 feet deep, was also empty. And this is the place where the Little Patriots practice honoring the United States flag and has its office. I hear also that these Little Patriots may use the service entrance. That is an outrage to treat these Little Patriots as if they were second-class citizens. That is unacceptable. These Little Patriots must have access to the front door to this facility. Consequently, this is a military building, has to be kept as such for these Little Patriots in this facility, and they need to have their own lease with the state and not a sublease. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Elaine Walsh next.
Thank you. I want to give a little background.
Sure.
Because I was on the board. I don't know how many others were on the board when this application to take over the Armory occurred. And I was proud to work with Terry Slater on the zoning issues. But before I get there, let me say that my uncle, Sergeant Major Larry Logan, was the head of the Armory and responsible for running it for over 25 plus years. I have brothers, cousins, friends who were part of the Army Reserve in there. And they served proudly and represented our community and participated in the historic and patriotic activities of our community, whether it's a Memorial Day, knowledge of the statues in Central Park, or the lighting of trees, or even being the escorts for the coming out events that happened there. And we're very involved with the Knickerbocker Grays. So my history as a native to the community goes back. And in speaking to one of my brothers today, I have to say, as a military person, he cannot believe what's going on. But let me get to now what happened. The Conservancy, as they call themselves, or everybody knew it as Rebecca's dream of becoming Eastside Lincoln Center, was not welcomed in the community.
Okay, let's keep the personal attack below, Elaine.
Deanna,
I will mute you if you do personal attacks. This is my committee, and if you do personal attacks, I will not allow for it. Please do not call people names. Thank you.
I will not mention them. What happened was when there was a move on this, we had in the Armory the women's shelter. And I am proud to say I took leadership to protect, because the Conservancy wanted to kick out the women's shelter and did not want to keep it. And so one of the things that was worked on was enabling the women's shelter, I hate to use that word, to stay. And ironically, it went from 100 people to 80, and I don't know why. The Knickerbocker Grays, and you know, this is something that when we all look back, we say, why didn't we do whatever? Was part of the Armory. It was to stay. There was no question that the Knickerbocker Grays would be evicted. So it is very surprising that this has happened. In looking at what happened in the Conservancy coming in to the Armory, it was they were going to renovate and restore. How many years later do we have? And we have maybe 3 rooms done. Funding for part of this was a $30 million grant from the New York State Development Corporation using Port Authority funds. So that was one of the things that was going to help renovate. I have to say, and I am remiss, that we did not monitor and see what was going on in the Armory.
Elaine, if you can speak to.
Yes, you know what, Tiana, it's important.
You're saying my name wrong. First of all, my name is Taina, and we've been on the board together for 2 years. So we're going to mute you now because you've been rude, and there are children on this Zoom. So we're going to move on. If you could please mute Elaine and move on to John Phillips. Thanks, John.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, everyone, for sharing your opinions and perspectives on the matter. As a longstanding member of the community in New York, specifically Yorkville, and being involved with the community board, I know we have a special interest in making sure that our heritage is preserved. With regard to the Knickerbocker Grays and the Armory, it seems we're dealing with something that's unique. One, because the Armory has been so instrumental in turning something that was moving in the wrong direction to something that's quite functional. But at the same time, the Knickerbocker Grays have been institutionalized for 120, 140 years, which makes it very, very different than most other relationships. I know the Armory is a very big place. I grew up in this neighborhood. I'm very familiar with the Armory, and I know that it's quite a big building. Now, in looking over the materials for this meeting with regard to the Knickerbocker Grays and the Armory, I believe I saw a document that said that the Armory, the Conservancy, when they took the Armory over, was invested in making sure that the Knickerbocker Grays are not only a part of their current identity, but well into the future. From the community's perspective, anything that lasts the test of time for 140 years is definitely worth taking a second or third look at. I have to admit, when Ms. Robertson showed her slideshow, it was impressive by all. Everything that I saw on the screen looked very glad to see that's a real asset, not only concern, which
John, you're breaking up. I don't know if it's your video, but Rami, do you hear him breaking up?
Yes, I do.
Is that better? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. My question is a troop of what I would imagine to be 12 to 20 kids occupying less than 1,500 square feet. How could that possibly get in the way of one's vision for a space that's so large? Not only that, there seemed to be a very positive opinion with regard to the Knickerbocker Grays early on. So my question is, what changed? And if there was a change of heart, what is the impact that the Knickerbocker Grays has on the physical space itself? Marco actually said it. I couldn't say it any better than Marco. I mean, we're dealing with an organization that has honored the fallen and the heroes of this country and this city for well beyond any of our lifetimes. I know there's a legal question involved here. I know there's a lot of questions that weren't answered specifically. But at the end of the day, I think it's a question of whether or not the Conservancy has the right to evict the Grays versus the state of New York weighing in and making a determination as to how that space is being used. A concern I have is over the future, is the Conservancy going to specialize who and what is allowed in that building? And if they're going to do that, they're reflective of what the community wants and needs. It's a massive piece of real estate in a very, very centralized location. And I would imagine whatever goes in there now or later must be something that is usable for all of us. I've only been in the Armory once or twice. I think it's a beautiful building. I think it's appropriate for children to be a part of New York City history in this way. But at the same time, I think relationships are very, very important. And even though I'm not a sole decision maker here, I would love to be able to have or see the Conservancy and the Knickerbocker Greys come to some type of agreement without having to go for additional remediation. Now, it is a little bit of a conflict for me because my son is a new Knickerbocker Grey. But I would really like to see this board pass a resolution that at least forces a conversation to be had on the merits of both sides of this argument. Kids are important, and I think we really, really have to be on the right side of this argument. So thank you all for your time. And again, I really do appreciate everyone's consideration here.
Thank you, John. Can we unmute Barry?
Good evening, all. I'll be very, very brief. The task force I was referred to earlier was in November of 2007. I was a member of it. The major issue that the community raised was about traffic when the events were taking place. Would the local area be impacted by the noise and disruption of the traffic? And that was solved by hiring a traffic engineer. His name was Sam Schwartz. And since then, as I recall, we haven't heard a hell of a lot about the traffic at the Park Avenue Armory. However, this issue is a totally different story. It's about people. It's about culture. It's about history. I strongly support the retention of the Knickerbocker Greys. By the way, there are only 30 people going to the Knickerbocker Greys currently at the Armory, or there will be going if they're allowed to continue their wonderful work at the Armory. 30. Going back to 120 years, I think they're entitled to the consideration of the community and the consideration of Rebecca Robertson and her crew. Just one question. She mentioned they have a lawyer doing the work on this. More importantly, get an architect to come in and decide how that space of 300 square feet, 500 square feet out of 120,000 square feet or more can be used. I think it's a shanda that when an accommodation can't be reached before we reach this point. Please, let the Knickerbocker Greys remain as an entity and as an icon in the community at the 7th Regiment Armory on Park Avenue. Thank you.
Thanks, Barry.
Gail?
Thank you. I was going to say, I think that I am the only mother who may have had a Knickerbocker Grey as a child, but now I find out that there's a father who has his son in the Greys also who is on the board. I can't speak more highly for the Greys as an organization. I watched my son Randolph and his friends really develop into lovely, kind, and considerate young men in large part because they also learn discipline and respect. So I certainly am in full support of the Greys remaining in the Armory. Given what the Conservancy has managed to accomplish, I applaud them. I think that the restoration that you've been taking, I know it's hard, maybe not that many spaces have been renovated. What's going on behind the walls is what takes so much time. And I know it takes money. Having run 3 nonprofits, fundraising is not easy. But I agree completely with Barry. Why not find an architect? When you're talking about a couple of 100,000 square feet of space, you're talking about young people who will march in any corridor, wherever there's a spot, they're learning how to drill properly. So I would hope that given your ongoing creativity, Ms. Robinson, that you'd be able to bring somebody in, kind of take a look from a different perspective, rather than we're going to throw out an organization that's been an integral part of the Armory for 120 years. Look at a way that you can just carve out a little bit of space. This is one of the most premier after-school programs that we have in our community. Let's do our best to keep it and let them have their home in the Armory. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Barbara?
Barbara, you're muted.
Yeah. I'd like to make a resolution to urge the state to work with the Armory to keep the Braves. And if seconded, I'm going to make a very quick comment.
Do we have a second?
I assumed 100. I just want to say that for
Do
those,
we have a formal second? Is that Michelle? Do we have a second from Michelle?
Yeah, you have one from Michelle or Gail or Peggy.
it's like 20 seconds, so that's great. For those of us that went to the Ukrainian rally the other day, John Phillips, who's proud to say is our co-member, his son was unbelievable. And David Menegon has done it I've just spoken to David about it in such an unbelievable job. So I'm very pleased to make the resolution. I'm glad it's seconded.
Great.
Thank you. Peggy?
I think we have I don't think.
Well,
I would like to call the question on the proposal before the.
Ed seconds. Any opposition to calling the question? Seeing none, the resolution on the floor is to urge the state to work on the issue of the Greys and to keep the Greys in the 7th Regiment Armory. So we will now, Michelle, is that opposition to calling the question? Okay.
Just to be clear, to explain to, and by the way, we are so grateful. Thank you to so many of you that have remained on the Zoom, especially to the children on the Zoom. And I just want to personally apologize for the antics of some of my fellow board members and adults on the Zoom. You all, the children on the Zoom, have been like the most polite, patient, like well-mannered children. And the way that adults behave is sometimes not what you should mimic. So thank you for staying on, and hopefully you get to go to bed soon. And so just to be clear to everyone who's on the Zoom, only members of Community Board 8, as signaled by either saying co-chair on our names or CB8, will get to vote on this. And so I'll turn it over to Rami.
Okay. Michelle, is that a?
You have a point of order question?
Point of
Yeah,
order?
I have a question because it was a very simple resolution, which I heartily support, but I think it's really important about all these whereases. And I think all of the co-chairs, certainly if they listen back or whatever, that you have enough recording to make sure that our whereases are explanatory and substantial. And if you need any help with them, I'm sure any one of us would be able to. Would be happy to help.
That.
We
we'll
won't
send
paint everyone through going through it now, but we'll work on that.
Members of the committee, we will send, or board members who are present, we will send a draft of the resolution before we put it into our formal minutes, just so you all know what you're voting on tonight. Okay, without further ado, let's vote. So if you're new, which I don't think any of you are, but to vote, if you're voting no, abstaining, or not voting for cause, please raise your hand. Board members only, please. John?
Can we unmute John, please?
Yes, I'm muted. I'm going to choose to not vote for cause. I'm on the board of the Greys, and my son is a Knickerbocker Grey, and I think that would be in poor taste if I voted.
Yeah, I mean, you are welcome to do that. Just to be clear, you are under no obligation to do that. If you don't have a financial interest, you are allowed to do that. But, you know, that is not a reason to recuse yourself. I just wanted to make that clear and state it on the record.
Thank you, Ty. I do understand it. It's just a point for me.
Got it. Okay.
Thank you, John.
Can we unmute whoever's on the
wait, hold on. I have to read names first.
There's somebody on iPhone who has their hand up, Rami.
Yeah, iPhone, please identify who you are. Unmute first.
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, I logged into the community board. I'm Gail Kisner.
Okay, sorry, Gail. This is only for board members to vote.
Okay. Okay, for names in the record, Vanessa Aronson, Elizabeth Ashby, Gail Barron, Michelle Birnbaum, Tanya Barrero, Ed Hartzog, John is not voting for cause, Peggy Price, Elizabeth Rose, Barbara Rutter, Barry Schneider, Rami Seagal, Russell Squire, Marco Tamayo, Elaine Walsh. Did I miss any board members present?
If you're calling in from the phone, please raise your hand. Maybe we missed naming you. *9 to raise your hand. Or if you didn't list your name, please raise your hand through the reactions icon.
Okay.
Okay, resolution passes unanimously with the one
Not
vote,
unanimously, because of that.
one not vote for cause.
Yep. And just to explain it again, thank you to everyone that attended. For those of you where this is your first meeting, we hope you will come back. What happens when a resolution passes at committee is that it then goes on to the full board for a vote. So that will happen in May. So at the May full board meeting, Rami, myself, and Vanessa will be presenting this resolution. It will show the votes. It will have the full resolution. I apologize for the bell that you're hearing that brings my dinner. The meeting has gone very long. We will get to old business and new business fairly quickly. But again, thank you for everyone that joined. And I'll turn it over to Rami to
Yes. Thank you, Taina. And
that's May 18th.
May 18th is the full board, and our next committee meeting is the 4th Thursday of May. So whatever day that may be, you're all welcome to attend. We especially encourage you to attend. So now moving on to old business. Is there any old business from past agendas for the committee to discuss?
Sorry, Tina, I'll get it in a second, okay?
iPhone?
No, I'll get down. I'm on a Zoom.
Or have we heard from iPhone already?
No. You guys keep unmuting me. I'll be very happy to speak. And you know what? I'm not a community
Are you
board
speaking on the
member.
Grays issue, or are you speaking on?
I want to speak to Mr. Wade Thompson. When he was alive, I don't know how many people there actually knew him, but on behalf of him, I will say that he really liked the Grays, because my mother's 88 and he and my mother would be chitty-chatting at the Armory at whatever events that they had.
Okay, I'm sorry but that agenda item is passed. Is there any old business not pertaining to the Grays? Okay, one more second. Seeing none, is there any new business, potential action items for the committee to discuss in the future?
Yeah. And I just, it seems like none, but before we close, I just want it to be stated for the record. Rebecca, if you're still on, Rebecca Robertson, any representatives from the Armory, to the extent that you have legal documentation that you referenced before that helps prove your case for whatever you were saying, like, please do send it to us. Again, we tried to run a really fair meeting, and I hope most people on here agree that we did. Before the full board meeting where we present the resolution, please feel free to send over any documentation. We are happy to share it with the board when we present this resolution.
Or if any relevant parties, not just the Armory,
sure,
want to submit documentation. Also at the full board meeting on May 18th, I believe Will said, there'll be a public session that if you all sign up on May 18th before, I think you can sign up now, but if you sign up before 6:45 on May 18th, you'll be on the list for the public session to speak in support or not support or regarding the resolution.
All right.
Michelle, is that old business or new business?
Let's unmute Michelle.
It's relevant to your comment. Just to follow up, Rami, I would like to encourage anybody with a position on this issue to attend that full board meeting, because this resolution goes to the full board for a vote, and it is not a fait accompli out of this committee. I just wanted everybody to understand that it'll be the vote at the full board that will be the position of the full board. So just to clarify that anybody who has interest should come to that full board meeting in May. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marco?
Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
We have a
Ed
second?
seconds.
Second from Ed. Thank you so much.
With that, thank you everyone for attending. We really appreciate it. We hope to see you next month and at the full board meeting. Bye, everyone.
Have a good night,
Have a good
everyone.
night.